Please move your way and going back to the ballroom. Kindly have a seat as we would like to start our next session shortly. And if you want to bring your coffee, your tea or your snack to the ballroom, you are very welcome. So you can enjoy the refreshment while we are continuing our next session. It is the plenary session with the theme Building Bridges, Strengthening Collaboration to Shape the Internet Future. So for that, once again, I would like to invite all the participants to please re-enter the ballroom and kindly have a seat. Thank you. Once again, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, can you remind all of you as we would like to start our opening plenary session shortly. For that, I would like to invite everyone to please return to the ballroom and kindly have a seat. And if you want to bring your coffee, tea and snack with you, you are very welcome. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are still at the foyer area, you may please enter the ballroom and kindly have a seat as we will start the next plenary session very soon. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our opening plenary session is about to start. So I would like to invite all the participants of APAC DNS Forum 2024. Could you please move your way to the ballroom and kindly have a seat as we will start the next opening plenary session very soon. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to bring your coffee, your snack, your tea with you during enjoying or during continuing our next session, you are very welcome. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, with all due respect, I would like to invite all of you to please enter the ballroom and kindly have a seat. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our opening plenary session is about to start, and as you can see on stage, the moderator and also the speakers are ready to ask to share, of course, the theme of our opening plenary session. So once again, I would like to invite all the participants who are still outside at the foyer area, you may please enter the ballroom and kindly have a seat. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I do hope everyone are already energized, of course, after enjoying the refreshment, coffee and tea that we have provided to you. And now I'm sure that each and every one of you are ready to follow the important session. This is the opening plenary session with the theme Building Bridges, Strengthening Collaboration to Shape the Internet's Future. This is gonna be an interesting session as we have amazing speakers and also amazing moderator to lead this session, ladies and gentlemen. And without any further ado, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our distinguished moderator. He is Vice President and Managing Director Asia Pacific of ICANN. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, this is our moderator, Mr. Jerong Lo. Stage is yours.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming back. Usually it's very hard to get people back from the break. But I'm very grateful for a lot of you to come back so quickly and on time. All right, so today for our session, basically it's an opening plenary and to set the scene for all of us for the next 2 days. And I'd like to first introduce my speakers. So during the opening already we had Sally with us, so she needs no introduction. So Pak Hario, we've also introduced. So allow me to introduce Mr. Andrew Yue. And he's the Managing Director, Government Affairs and Public Policy from Google. So very thankful to have you here. And the next speaker we have as well is Jeff Houston, the Chief Scientist from APNIC. I think he needs no introduction too, because everything that I know, quite a lot of them I learned from Jeff. But Jeff, can you hear us?
Sorry, yes, I can. Hi, it's a pleasure to be here, even virtually.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for making the appearance. And Jeff is in a different time zone, so really appreciate it very much for your time spending with us. Okay, so let's get started. So this is meant to be an interactive session. So what we're going to do, we're going to kind of like the warm-up session earlier, we'll start off with a Menti. So you can scan the QR code in front of you, and if it's too far, you just go to your browser and type menti.com. Then you can use the code 493497779. So I invite my speakers to join as well. All right, so scan the QR code. If not, just go to menti.com, then key in the code. Now, the question is, what are key challenges the internet is facing or expected to face? What are key challenges the internet is facing or expected to face? So we'll put up some keywords there. I'm going to keep a screenshot of this so we can share it with everybody. So we have various words coming up: security, abuse, fragmentation. Security seems to be a big one. Fragmentation, lack of trust, rapid development of technology, alternative namespace, multilateralism, ethics, interesting. Okay, let's try to push to 100 responses, yeah? We have 60-something, 70 going. Online gambling is an interesting one too. Lack of governance. Digital sovereignty. Compliance. So some of the big ones really are abuse, fragmentation, security, digital sovereignty is getting bigger, cybercrime, trust, All right, this is great. Now, what we're going to do next, we'll invite our speakers to each pick one keyword from this list and expand on it, give their comments. So to make it more conversational, this will be more interactive this way. So invite my speakers, choose a word from this list, then expand on what you think. Do you agree? You can also choose a word that you disagree with, and we can discuss and debate about that too. Now let's just go in this order. Can I invite first Sally? Then after that, let's have Jeff. Then we'll have Pak Hario, and followed by Andrew. So we're going to focus on challenges first, all right? So let's invite Sally. Pick a keyword. What do you think interests you the most? And can expand about it, about your views. What do you think the audience here should know about that challenge as well?
Thank you, Gerald. Well, lots to choose from there. I'm going to pick fragmentation, by which we mean fragmentation, by which I mean the risk to the current governance model of the technical layer of the internet. That's the way I'm looking at it. So, as I said, and some of you will have heard earlier in my opening comments, there is a major misunderstanding, particularly amongst some governments in the world, but by many stakeholders actually, about how the internet actually works. And we might say, well, does it matter? It works. The problem is it works, like many things in life, until it doesn't work. And the world has now become so dependent on the internet working that we can't imagine a world in which it doesn't, because it always has. And it's very difficult for people to worry about something that's never happened. It's not part of our human nature. We need to see something happen until we really understand it. And the reason it matters is because if it does fragment, if it breaks, then we're all at risk. And that fragmentation risk comes from two areas in my view. One is what I'm going to call it is unintentional. So we break that model by mistake, or we damage it by mistake. How do we do that? Well, there are different ways, but the most likely way is by governments who want to regulate their content on the internet to protect their citizens from bad things. This is, by the way, nothing to do with ICANN. We do not oversee content. It is not ICANN's responsibility to tell governments when they should regulate. It's their choice. And some of you will know, inside our model at ICANN, our governments are here, and I'm actually looking at two of them on my left-hand side, three of them right in front of me, are what we call our Government Advisory Committee, our GAC representatives. We love an acronym at ICANN. We can turn anything into an acronym. And these people are sent by nearly 200 of the world's governments to ICANN to work alongside our other stakeholders, our civil society activists, our academics, our technical community, people like Jeff, our policymakers, our government representatives. We all come together here in the ICANN community to try to make sure that we educate people who don't understand about that unintentional risk. And we will do a lot of training and development and communications to explain to regulators, not that they shouldn't regulate, but as they think about regulation, how to understand the technical implications and the risk. Because, for example, many governments will say, I want to regulate. Okay, you regulate inside your national border. It's perfectly fair. But the internet does not understand geographical borders. It's not built like that. It's a global internet. It's a global network of networks. So it's a communication understanding job. Now, the other side is intentional fragmentation, and that is what I talked about in my speech, where some, not many, but some member states of the United Nations actively want to take over the domain name system. And the mechanism they may choose to do that is to suggest that this internet governance model doesn't work, and it needs to be changed, And all those stakeholders, all of you, are no longer part of the process of making decisions. So that's a different issue. We tackle that differently, and all of us have a voice to our governments, to the diplomats that will vote in New York next year, to make sure that they understand the risk and they can do the right thing.
Thank you, Sally. Can I pick up on one point that you made, which is, you know, the lack of understanding of how the internet works? Because at ICANN, I too work for ICANN. We do a lot of work to tell people how it works. But at many dinner conversations amongst colleagues and friends, we actually talk about, fundamentally, there's something very interesting. At school, there are two very important topics. Used to be one, but now it's two. Two very important topics that's not covered. The first one is financial management, right? Nobody learns about financial management in school until you come out to work, and we realize there's a huge gap. The second one now we all realize is actually just how does the internet work? Because all the kids grew up with the mobile phones. My kid learned to swipe my phone before he learned how to write. But they don't actually know how the internet works. And the other day, my younger son was saying very proudly to to his grandfather, my father-in-law, "Oh, Grandpa, you're a builder." Then he turned to me and said, "Papa, what do you do?" And I think that speaks a lot to not understanding how the internet works. And I'm wondering whether you can give any advice for all of us in this group, because I think all of us face the same problem. How do you think we could tackle this issue of like raising awareness and understanding of how the internet works? Or should we even work with the schools for some reason?
It's a great question, Charong. And I mean, my daughter, talking about our children, my daughter, who's quite a bit older than your children, and she's an engineer, but she's a power engineer. She's an electrical engineer. And I don't think she knows how the internet works, actually. So we should not assume that really anybody does. In fact, one of my colleagues at ICANN, who's our CTO, says he thinks there's just a few hundred people in the world who truly understand how the internet works. So, you know, it's kind of a big problem you're talking about. Well, I think I would say two things. One is organizations like ICANN and many other organizations that we partner with closely, particularly in the NGO space and IGO space. And I think of Doreen Bogdan-Martin, who's the Secretary General of the ITU, who many of you will know. The ITU has an enormous resources dedicated to supporting the sustainability goals and working in partnership with us in training and development programs all over the world to train what we call train the trainer. So yes, we should talk directly to schools, but we should reach out to build our partnerships with other organizations. That is their day job. And we need to train them to train the people that come through their hands. And to give you an example, we have an official partnership. We call it the Coalition for Digital Africa, which is based out of our office in Nairobi. And Smart Africa, which is, many of you will know Smart Africa, it's a large, powerful government group of African governments, very active in digital inclusion in Africa. And the ITU and many others are partners. And one of the partners with us there is the Association of African Universities. So this is not children as young as yours, but it is absolutely about doing capacity development with university students who might be engineering students or your law students or even history students like I was, to make sure that it's part of their core understanding and that they know that organizations like ICANN, communities like ICANN exist, and they understand how to participate in the IGF, in ICANN, or be part of ISOC, or get engaged with the work of APNIC, you know, regional RIRs. These are all groups that have an open process and are interested in people being part of understanding. So I think that the short answer is that we leverage we must leverage all the resources we have, because we have phenomenal global reach, and we need to make the most of that. But you're absolutely right. And then the other thing I would say is we need to be brave and clear and correct misunderstandings. So if we see governments or media or anybody else explaining things badly and suggesting that things don't work the way they do, I think we all collectively have a responsibility to put that right. And that means we don't get the spread of misinformation. I I hope that helps.
Thank you, Sally. So I'm picking up on an opportunity here, which is a huge gap where even the general person doesn't understand how the internet works. And us as an internet community, we can think about how we can collaborate on this and also work with your communities, whether it's your universities or the schools. We can work on that. Okay, I'm mindful of time, so let's move on. Let's go to Jeff. Jeff, can you pick on one of the words?
Hi.
I hope you can still see the screen.
I'm going to pick on the word security.
Yes.
Security.
Please.
Now, any human who was alive a few days ago has heard the name CrowdStrike. And it brought not only the airline systems to its knees all over the planet, banking systems, it brought a phenomenal sort of community of normal people doing normal things to their knees. And now, what's gone wrong? How is it possible for the actions of one company, ill-advised, admittedly, to do an update on a Friday afternoon, to actually sort of bring everyone down? Now, I think there are some very real issues flying around here that we have to be mindful of. The first is the internet was never designed for the role it's doing. It's a laboratory experiment that's escaped. We never built the internet to run at this size, at this scope, at this level of criticality for everyone. Scaling has been the constant activity over the last couple of decades. So the first thing is, what we're doing is not what the internet was designed for technically. But there's a second problem, and that is, yes, no one knows how the internet works, and neither do I. And the reason is not the lack of technical knowledge, and it's not an engineering deficiency. The internet was actually a novel experiment based on frustration with the old telephone companies. Because what was happening was that those telephone companies' position, those monopolies, were actually becoming, if you will, a cost on everyone. They were abusing customers. They were monopolizing. They were restricting technology. They created this massive pressure to actually release some of this technology and actually deploy it. The solution was actually to effectively disband the telephone companies and replace them with market-based solutions. The internet is a triumph of deregulation. But what we actually mean by deregulation is using market forces to orchestrate how we all work together. I can't tell you what to do. You can't tell me what to do. But if you want to create a product that makes money, then I need to want it. And it's my purchasing decisions that affect your outcomes. So there's a myriad of minor market decisions all over the world all the time that determine how the internet works. Now, that's a problem because faster and cheaper win customers. Better is much harder. And oddly enough, making secure systems is so much harder than making fast and cheap systems that sell quickly. And we've neglected building a safe and robust and resilient network. The nightmare of any government these days is the simple ability for minor decisions. I'm going to do an update to a Windows product on a Friday afternoon to create an impact that costs hundreds of billions of dollars, affects millions of people with phenomenal disruption. And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't, if you will, a hostile act, but we have no control over this network anymore. We have no quality and robustness because, oddly enough, that's not what sells. And so why do governments run cybersecurity centres? Because the public sector is the only one willing to do it. The private sector, which has built all this stuff, is kind of going, well, we've given you a problem and it's great, but we're not going to solve it for you. You've got to foot the bill for making it better. So security is kind of this ever-present problem that we've been unable, I think, to really get a handle on. And in some ways, in a market-based internet, the real problem for many governments and folk in the public sector is this haunting question that is security a market failure? Is security what sells products or what gets in the way of selling products? And that, I think, is the topic of our times. We've had a huge amount of effort over the last 30 years to bring security into the DNS, for example, trying to build a trustable DNS where the answers can be believed. We've been working on it for 3 decades. We have really good technical solutions. They're complicated, yes. They cost a bit more to run, yes. How many folk actually do DNSSEC? Well, if you look at the middle of the internet and count, you'll find it's got an uptake of around 2%. In marketing terms, that's a failure. So here we have this phenomenal thing, a worldwide communications network that has turned communications into a phenomenally affordable technology. Here am I coming in on a video session from Canada. Cost me nothing. It's really good quality. It's as good as what you could get 10 years ago for $1,000 a minute. But the cost of all of that is we've lost track of quality and robustness. That it may be cheap, it may be fast, but good has been lacking. And I think we're going to have to come to terms with this. We can't run our society, a digital society, at this level of vulnerability. We need to pay a lot more time, money, and attention to engineering resilience and robustness back into this network. And that's not passwords or multi-factor authentication. It's deeper than that. It's actually trying to understand how to orchestrate all these parts that they work together in harmony rather than working against each other. And that's a challenge, I must admit, that I'm going to leave for the younger people in the room, because I'm not sure that the stuff that I have done, has been that successful in making the internet secure. But if we want this to survive for the coming decades, then we're not in a very good place. We're not at all where we need to be. And security, I think, is the theme of the coming decade, if not longer, to actually focus our investment and our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. As usual, very insightful. I'm trying to keep up typing notes from all that you shared. I think there is a couple of very good takeaways from Jeff's remarks, and it's that security remains an ever-present issue, but for us to change the mindset that, with
recording in
said,
progress,
cheap, fast, and good. I don't know if some of you would probably have seen this. You go to your favorite service provider somewhere, or you have to queue up to buy at a hawker center. One of my favorite stores actually has this slogan: cheap, fast, good. Choose only 2. You can never get all 3. And in the internet now, perhaps it's as Jeff mentioned, we have the cheap and the fast, but now we want good as well. But perhaps it is very difficult for us to do that. But on the other hand, I think he made that point very clearly, that we have to go in that direction. So now we have to think, maybe we have to compromise on the cheap. Maybe we have to compromise on the fast in order to get the good. But what I think is really very insightful and for us to think about is how can we collaborate, like he said, how can we, it's not just passwords or authentication, but how can we orchestrate to work in harmony? I think this is a very insightful point, and it's an opportunity for us to think about too, is how can we work with each other to orchestrate and work in harmony to make the internet more secure, more robust, more resilient. Perhaps if it's one of us, we cannot find an answer. Maybe if it's all of us, we can find an answer. So we're going to leave that as a point to think about. Now let's move to Pak Haryo. Pak Haryo, let's choose a word.
Thank you, Jarang. Based on nature of the internet is open and internet is transparent. I think ethical is one critical word in that screen to create digital environment that is equitable, responsible, secure, and innovative. Because somehow some people maybe look physical world different with digital world. So ethical should be in place in as a user, as developer, as industry. When we create some technology, ethical should be in place in the technology itself. Because like principle like inclusivity, technology should be considered value of equality, justice, and peace, and give some access to all people to use technology. And also, human control should be in place in technology itself, like maybe in global, today there is a war, there is a artificial intelligence used in targeting people and decide which one they choose to, which one they target. This is ethical become critical aspect, so human control should be in place in the use of digital, in the use of technology. Yeah, that's what I just.
Pak Haryo, can you expand a little bit about, say, from your perspective, because your role about governance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any concerns, especially you mentioned about ethics, new technologies, but what are the key areas that from your role that are you focusing on right now?
Yeah. To create digital environment that is equitable, responsible, secure, and innovative, ethical aspect is very critical to in place in every people, the awareness to all people, so technology or internet or digital environment can be used broadly, and the risk can be minimized of the technology. So everyone have some access, have some opportunity, and the risk can mitigate because everyone aware about the principle of like inclusivity, humanity, security, safe, accessibility, transparency, credibility, and accountability in terms of use of technology.
Thank you. So I'm picking on the keyword that you said, which is awareness and education, perhaps. And perhaps we can tie that in to the earlier point when we were talking with Sally about the opportunity that we can tap on, which is how can we work with each other to raise the education, understanding of how the internet works. Would there be any programs that your ministry is already working on?
In Ministry Communication Informatics, there is a program, there are programs like digital literacy to the address to all people in all regions in Indonesia, and also of digital scale up to scaling up the capacity of Indonesia person. Start from awareness and then the talent.
And do you need any help?
Yeah, actually government cannot work by itself. We need help from multi-stakeholder, industry, international organization to make it more massive, to make all people have same knowledge about technology.
Thank you. So if you see Pak Haryo later, you can offer him your help if you think that's an area we can all contribute to. All right, let's move to Andrew. Please, pick a word.
Thanks very much. I have to say I was very tempted to go with not enough cats that I saw up there earlier. I don't know if there's ever been a comprehensive audit of the number of cats online, but there are not enough. But I think instead I'll talk a bit to cybersecurity. I think it has a degree of overlap with Jeff, but I'll try and give a kind of a bit of a company perspective, not so much at the infrastructure layer, more at the user layer. And I think that, we're very fortunate here in Asia Pacific. We're home to the largest number of internet users in the world. we're also home to the largest number of cybersecurity attacks in the world. And so it's, I think, a topic that is very front of mind for many across the multi-stakeholder model, for policymakers, for companies, for academics, for civil society, also for users. And as a company, we've always tried to put security at the heart of what we do and design secure by default, secure by design. AI brings an interesting opportunity here because on one level, it increases the potential kind of threat vectors. On another level, it gives us a lot of tools to be more proactive about trying to identify those threat attacks and the ability to see patterns in websites to identify before people go to a website that there are potential complications from that website. So it brings with us opportunity as well. And we think a bit about a pyramid. And if I think about the user layer, we can't expect everybody to become an expert in cybersecurity, but it's really important to create a base level of digital literacy. And we're partnering with a number of governments across the region to try and increase base level digital literacy for populations so people can understand and see and recognize scams and fraud when they come across them. We're also trying to build it very deeply into our products so people don't have to think about it. And I mentioned AI. It's actually because of AI that Gmail is able to screen out 99.9% of malware and phishing attempts through email. So AI is a real ally for us here, I think, in the cybersecurity fight. The next challenge, I think, in this region is in how to create a large cohort of experts in cybersecurity that can help users, can help small businesses, can help large companies deal with cybersecurity threats. And we've created a series of training courses to help upskill people. And indeed, we've created 125,000 Google career certificates in cybersecurity that are available across the region to help create and build a base level of individuals who can build a career out of helping ensure cybersecurity across the region. And then there's also the layer, I think, at kind of more towards where Jeff's talking about around how we ensure that the system is built correctly and how we ensure that very large enterprises on cloud and others are protected. This is where I think fundamental notions like diversification and moving to multi-cloud are very important. And it's where the technical side of things comes into play as well. And we've actually just established early this year in February a cybersecurity center of excellence in Tokyo to help provide skilling, training, research, and capability across Asia Pacific. And if anyone is interested in that, governments are interested in that, please come chat to me. We're very much hoping for it to be a hub to build training and skills capacity in cybersecurity for governments across Asia Pacific. And I'll just close then by reference to another keyword up here, which is multi-stakeholder, which is to say that no one can solve this alone. No single company, no single government, no single entity can solve the cybersecurity challenge alone. It is very much, like many internet problems, as Sally was alluding to, it's very much a shared challenge. But it's one, I think, in which forums like these can help build the basis for bringing the right expertise together across the technical layer, across user behavior, across economics, across a number of factors to try and ensure that we're building an internet that is able to be fast and cheap and is also able to be secure by default.
Thank you, Andrew. There are some very good points there, and I'd like to just pick up one takeaway, which is the point you made about AI, because it brings a lot of opportunities and gives us the tools to identify certain issues related to security. The flip side of it, interestingly, is also there's so many people that are scared about AI too. But how you put forward your point is really that it's how you use the tool, right, that allows us to maximize its benefits. Okay, so before this segment closes, I'd like to ask my team to help me take a screenshot before we lose this. So trouble my team to help take a screenshot, please. While we do that, let's do 10 minutes of interaction with the audience on challenges. So anyone like to ask a question to the panel, or anyone would like to also comment or add, you feel there's an important point that we have not made, there's a challenge for us, either you feel it for us as a whole or us in the region. We have the staff here with roving mics, so just feel free to raise your hand. Yep, I have the lady over there first.
Good morning. First of all, thank you for all of the speakers and organizers for such a wonderful forum. My name is Carissa, and I'm a cybersecurity and AI consultant based here in Bali. And I'm actually also ICANN's newly selected next-gen participant for the 81st forum in Istanbul. So I'm very happy to be here today for my first ICANN in-person event. So as a tech policy person, my question will be on APAC internet government landscape. And I'm directing this to Mr. Andrew, who works on public policy in Southeast Asia and was formerly head of policy on APAC. But this is certainly up for grabs for any of the speakers. I think we can all agree that the rapid development of AI technologies poses new regulatory challenges for APAC governments. With China being the first jurisdiction to adopt AI-specific regulations, we are still facing many uncertainties going forward regarding how other regulators in the APAC region will address the risks brought by AI. So my question is twofold. First, is there any specific policy issues that APAC or even ASEAN policymakers need to focus on in order to build strong internet governance in the region? And second, I'm very curious as to which countries outside of the APAC region that can be used as a role model when building our own regulatory landscape in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, please.
Thanks so much. Congratulations on going to Istanbul. It's going to be awesome. Our CEO, Sundar Pichai, said last year, AI is too important not to regulate, and too important not to regulate well. And so I think your question is a really important one. It's fundamental. It goes to the heart of how we're going to think about how this new technology will transform economies and societies, going forward years and decades. And it's important we're very thoughtful about this. And I think one thing I would say is, I can talk a bit more about this in a moment, maybe more on the opportunity side, but I really do think that there's an incredible opportunity for Asia Pacific to lead in respect of AI. And I think that, touching a bit the second part of your question, we've seen a lot of vocal developments in this space outside the region. But actually, I think the APAC voice should be stronger. I think it deserves to be stronger. I think the developments that are happening on AI in this region are quite phenomenal. The interest on the part of this region in using AI constructively for economic growth is unsurpassed globally. And I think that this region, in many ways, I think that there are other markets around the world which should be listening to this region more rather than the other way around, is what I would say. So I think there's a tremendous ability for this region, which I think will be at the front wave of the deployment of AI, to also then lead the conversation on governance in relation to AI. It was pleasing to see the Bletchley Park process move to Korea for its next round recently. But I think that this region should really be quite confident about taking a leading role in thinking through how AI should be regulated. That's not to say there aren't elements that can be useful to input into that conversation, whether it's the White House principles or whether it's regulations that are being developed elsewhere. I think ASEAN is doing a great job here, both in terms of thinking through the work that's being done, led by Singapore in terms of AI guidelines and consideration around generative AI guidelines and frameworks, but also DEFA and thinking through how do you put the opportunity into place in a regulatory framework that will help address, I think, some of the fragmentation issues that Sally was talking about earlier, but also allow the region to take a forward step. So I guess my main takeaway point is I think this region should not be afraid to lead this conversation. I think it has the expertise and it will have the experience to be right at the front of AI development and deployment. And so I really think that there's a huge opportunity here for this region to lead the global conversation around AI governance in coordination with some of the work that's been taking place elsewhere. Yeah.
Thank you. Any of the speakers like to add?
Could I just add one point? Firstly, I think I agree with you, Andrea. It's a great question, and I'm so happy that you're going to be with us in Istanbul. Congratulations. And actually, you asking this question is really what I was going to comment on, you personally. We have so many opportunities in the region to meet separately, to gather together, to leverage people like you who are becoming very active now, I hope, parts of our technical community, to gather together your own networks and to take some responsibility and leadership for raising the conversation. And so taking advantage of existing local meetings, doing your own work to coordinate your networks, and anything that we can do as part of things like the next round, the next generation program that you're participating in, or other resources that we have through our resources here in the region at ICANN, we absolutely want to support that, because I think, as your CEO said, this is not, this is something we have to embrace, and we have to work through how that works and how do we use it as a force for good.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. We had 2 more hands just now earlier. There was one gentleman in front. Yep, let's go for that.
Okay, thank you. I'm Basuki. I'm from Pandi, Indonesia. Okay, maybe I'm asking about the Miss Sari, especially, maybe regarding to what we call about the education. I mean, for the many things like for the cybersecurity, for technical foundation that you mentioned. Is that any plan that maybe I can, or maybe like another, like maybe from Google too, about how to distribute the knowledge, and then how to make closing the gap of the knowledge in every region, because sometimes right now we have a problem in cybersecurity. This problem is come from the old technology. And then so many sites in Indonesia have their own old technology and injected by many things, especially like a SQL injection with many things. And then I think in many cases we have to make a strong technical foundation through the maybe training, through the workshop. And then my suggestion, is this possible if we have the training, the workshop technical training through the online, maybe, because sometimes we just know that there is a cybersecurity problem, but we didn't know how to fix it. Step by step in every system. That's so that's why the cybersecurity is very, very big regarding to AI itself. But if we can have some program, especially for the workshop and for the training, not only for the community, but maybe for others, like for the government, for the industry, I think it's very challenging for us. Because right now, the gap of the knowledge of the people, it's very, very huge. Because usually people just only use the technology. But when we have a problem, they cannot find the solution. That's the idea. Thank you.
Yeah, so the question is, just to summarize, is, does ICANN or other organizations have plans or existing programs that can help to close the gap in terms of knowledge, especially when it ties to specific problems like cybersecurity? So the gentleman asked Sally to answer this question. Can I also ask Jeff, because I know APNIC has various training and also the podcasts that, Jeff, I'm a huge follower, but you have a huge following there. I'm wondering whether we can share that with everybody else too. So let's have Sally, then go to Jeff.
Thank you. It's such an important question, and you're right. The knowledge gap is a risk. And the answer is yes. I would make two observations, and I'll hand to Jeff. The first is partnership, because we need the technical community to work together as closely as it possibly can to share the resources that we have, so that we make the most of the money and the time that we spend collectively to develop materials and to train trainers. And we partner as much as we can in regional meetings, face-to-face, so that we can, you know, ensure people can travel and people can attend. And these are practical things. They cost money, and they require people to get on planes. Sometimes they require language translation. And so we have to commit as organizations, and ICANN does, significant amounts of human and financial resource to do that. And we do that in partnership as much as we can, both globally and regionally, with the technical partners that help us to coordinate that technical layer of the internet that's so critical in the cybersecurity discussion. Now, the other thing I would say was, what do some of those look like at ICANN? And then Jeff will tell you a little bit about APNIC. We have an ICANN university, should we call it that, an ICANN learning center, which is exactly as you suggest, is entirely online, which is called ICANN Learn. And there is technical training available there. There is also broader training. And our next generation program, and one of the things that our colleague over here will already have done, is we asked them to go through a whole series of foundational training courses in ICANN Learn in order to be accepted onto that program. Because we want to bring in new volunteers to ICANN, but even if they may not be technical, and some of them will be engineers, but many of them won't be, we want them to have a good, broad understanding of what they are doing and why we do what we do and how we do it. So there's an online university. The other thing we developed extensively during COVID, during the pandemic, is we had a major problem during the pandemic. Before the pandemic, most capacity development, which is the word we tend to use, capacity development for me is training, but it is specifically skill building. The online training is you control it. You do it when you feel like doing it. It's very convenient. It's very consistent. It's relatively cost effective. The skill building is humans. I am showing you how to do something, so now you can do it, and then you don't need me anymore. And as I talked about in my comments, we have train the trainer programs. But during the pandemic, of course, we couldn't get on planes and bring people together. So we evolved a very sophisticated online training platform specifically for the technical community to train more engineers, more technical support people to be able to manage security issues and to protect this critical infrastructure that we have. So that is also available, and that's given us a lot more scale to be able to go out around the world and to train those groups and include people like law enforcement, all sorts of different groups, all of whom need to be involved. So that's what we're doing at ICANN, and we will continue to do more of that. And it's a critical part also of ICANN's strategic plan, which is built up by our community, by our staff, and by our board. It's a truly multi-stakeholder product, and that recommits ICANN into the next 5 years to continue to do this and do it in multiple languages. So perhaps it's a good time to go to Jeff.
Thank you, Sally. May I just pick up one point that you made, which I think is very insightful. You mentioned capacity building is about skill building. And that also made me realize that a lot of the online material we get, more of it is about information download. And perhaps how we want to think about it as a community is when we do the programs, when it's in person, we want to focus on the skills. But we have the complementary side, which is on information, for information download. So when we're in person, we don't need to provide information for information download anymore, but we want to approach capacity building quite differently. So I'm going to leave that point with all of you, and let's move to Jeff, please.
Thank you. Is APNIC, from its outset, was a regional internet registry, but I think almost first and foremost, it was that so it could enable the development of capability within the Asia-Pacific region. From the outset, we have always been focused on helping the broader community into initially getting into the internet and onto the internet, but secondly, help this region and the various players, be they internet service providers, public policy folk and similar, have the tools and the wherewithal and the social contacts to actually be effective and to be able to do what they want to do and want to achieve inside this area. So it's always been a very, very big part of APNIC. About a third of our workforce is focused on development and training, and most of the time, you know, a large amount of APNIC staff are certainly not at home. They're out on the road going to regional network operator group meetings, conducting training courses, and so on. And we try and sort of keep that material up to the edge. Talk about current issues, talk about current technologies and current challenges, rather than, you know, the conventional stuff of some years ago. It's a very fast-moving area. So we try very hard to focus on your needs today rather than trying to perfect yesterday. That's the first thing. The second one is sort of where I'm involved, and it's, I think we're at a unique sort of part of the internet's evolution, which is not going to last for much longer. Because at the moment, all the original folk are still around. Vince there, Vince Cerf, Paul Mockapetris, the man behind the DNS. They're all with us. And it actually emphasizes the fact that technology is not a download. Technology is not a book. Technology is actually a conversation. It's malleable. It's actually your views, my views, other folks' views, and trying to understand what a decent outcome is that works for most people. And I'm here at an IETF meeting this week, and that's almost the best way of understanding that this is not something that somebody else did. The internet is what we've done, you, I, and everyone else. This is our job, and its future is oddly enough in our hands. As technologists, as policy folk and so on, you know, this is what we are building, no one else. And I think beneath all that training, beneath that sort of sense of capability, should be a sense of confidence about owning it, about being a part of its development, and having, I suppose, the confidence to say, let's go and try this and see who else wants to come along too on the journey. It's a very big part of the IETF's culture, an open culture that invited others to participate. It's not you go and work for a large company and take part in company secrets. The internet was very much focused on openness, whether it was open source, various forms of open technology, the standards are open, the knowledge is open. It's not locked away, it's not pay the price and get the secret keys, it's all there. At APNIC we try and give that a human face. We try and make sure that the human contact point is foremost and uppermost in the way we work. But above all, we're there to instill confidence in you and everyone else that you're part of this and that you can play as big a role as you wish in trying to determine its future. And that sense of self-empowerment, that sense of confidence, that sense of ability to help the rest of us chart the direction of this is, I think, the best thing we can possibly do for a lasting and enduring legacy in this region. We're not customers. We're part of the provider chain, we're part of the technology, and we're part of its future as much as everyone else. And if we can instill that message and hammer that home, and all of us feel empowered to participate, then we've succeeded, I think, in our first and foremost mission to give this region a sense of confidence that the internet is part of everyone's work. It's not what someone else did some time ago, somewhere else. It's us. And that's certainly what we've been striving to do since our inception as APNIC. I'd like to think we've been successful. You can never tell until, you know, years later. But that's certainly a big part of why we do what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Very insightful and a very good soundbite that technology is not a download, but a conversation. I really love that. Okay, I have one more question, but sorry, can you hold on first and we move to the next segment? I still promise everyone we have time for more discussion. Okay, so trouble my team to shift to the next segment. We're going to talk about opportunities. So same thing with the Menti. Can we move to the next one? So we have another question on Menti. We're going to ask about opportunities. Now, same thing, everyone. If you just scan the QR code. If not, if it's too far away, just go to menti.com. It's a different code. So 36626890. Sorry, when I read out the numbers, I always feel like I'm reading out like lottery results. But 36626890. And the question is, what opportunities do you hope the internet will provide for us, the APAC region, in the near future? What opportunities do you hope the internet will provide for the APAC region in the near future? Let's all try to give some responses, some keywords. Again, let's push to 100 responses. So we have some already: multilingual internet, education, economy, knowledge sharing, AI is there. Regional language access, Web3, governance, innovation. Bigger words are business, education. And being Asian, business is a big deal for many of us. And while we're waiting, I'm going to talk about the rundown. Let's go the other way when we first started. So Andrew can start first, then Park Hario, then Jeff, then Sally. Okay, well, you keep the responses coming. Now, Andrew, do you have something that's there that you already want to speak on that's close to your heart?
Sure. There's actually a few words that are linked together that I can maybe bring together a bit. AI, digital economy, business, multilingual internet actually I think is linked to that. We talk about the digital economy. I think we can start soon talking about the AI economy. And then I hope soon we just start talking about the economy, because it is really, that's what I think is increasingly going to underpin it. So maybe let me start with a story. Actually, I was in Jakarta about a month ago, and I met a guy named Danny. Danny's passion is to create jobs in rural areas in Indonesia where he's from. And he runs a small company that works with Telkomsel, the Indonesian telco, to ensure the maintenance of telecom masts. And he's developed an AI tool to help people in his workforce go take photos of the various components of the towers, and then the tool will tell them, have they taken the correct photo? Are they missing a component? It stops them having to go back multiple times to take photos again and again. It's a huge productivity boost. Another story. Someone named Makoto. He lives in Shizuoka in Japan, and his parents are farmers. They run a cucumber farm, and he found that when he went back, his father spent most of his time sorting cucumbers. You have to sort them by the quality, by the grade. Are they straight? Are they bent? It's very time consuming, and he developed, again, using open source AI tech. In this case, it was a Google one, but can be anyone. He developed an AI tool to sit on top that essentially, as the cucumbers came down the conveyor belt, it sorted them by size, by shape, by how straight they were, and it dramatically saved time. So just think about those two tiny examples and think about the economic opportunity there, and then multiply it by the size of companies that exist in this region. And then multiply it again when you think about how you can have economy-wide impacts. We have a project in Google called Project Greenlight that uses AI to improve the efficiency of traffic lights. Everyone who's come from the airport here in Bali, maybe you experienced the traffic jam on the way. It's rolled out here in Bali. It's also in Jakarta. It's also in multiple countries around the world where we work with local governments to try to reduce stoppage time. And that AI has reduced stoppage time at lights by 30%, brings a 10% reduction in emissions and a big economic benefit. We work with the International Rice Research Institute in the Philippines. on developing climate-resilient strands of rice, and AI can help identify how that can work by churning through huge data loads. And the estimate there is that's going to save $30 billion in lost rice going forward in the next 10 years. So that's why you see these big numbers when people talk about the AI economy. ASEAN ministers estimate between $1 and $2 trillion by 2030. Globally, I've seen a $15 trillion number. The numbers are all kind of a stab in the dark, but the order of magnitude, I think, is what should really make us sit up and pay attention. And I think there is nowhere in the world better placed to take advantage of AI deployment than this region. And so I'll just sort of close on this point. There's a lot of focus, I think, on the prize of who's going to win the AI race. And that's at the hardware layer, you know, NVIDIA and others at making the chips, who's winning on compute, where are the GPUs. There's a prize there. But what's better than having an AI company is having an AI economy. And I think the bigger prize is in the rollout and deployment of AI across the economy, so that every Makoto, every Dani is building AI into their small business or into their medium-sized business or into the large business. And I think what do you need for success there? Unlike the infrastructure layer, which is all around capital and R&D, this layer is around a large tech-literate population, a government that is optimistic about the role of technology, a developer ecosystem, sufficient infrastructure to make it work. There's no other region that has those ingredients as this region does. There are regions that might have the infrastructure, but not the tech optimism. They might have the tech optimism, but not the developer ecosystem. They might have the developer ecosystem, but not the infrastructure. They might have the enthusiasm, but not the infrastructure. So I think this region is better placed than any other region in the world to lead the rollout and deployment of AI across the economy. There's one layer is like, who's going to win this race on compute and others? That's one race. The bigger race, I think, who can transform their economy quickly into an AI economy. That's where the big game is, and that's why I'm so excited to be in this region. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew, and it's very insightful, and I really like the point you made about that it doesn't have to be big. You know, individuals can use AI, and it's kind of tied to the point Jeff made about internet. It's about self-empowerment. So you don't have to rely on the big tech companies, but you can use just the technology and do it for something for yourself, and it can be rolled out, and other people can use and scale it, which is great. Now let's move to Pak Hario, please. Choose a word.
Yeah, thank you, Jarung. As a government, I choose governance.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. On behalf of government, when we try to regulate some, especially technology, actually we need to know more about the technology, the life cycle itself, how the technology is created, also about AI, start from predictive, generative, or general AI. Somehow, government left behind about knowledge about AI. Somehow we need to multi-stakeholder approach to discuss about this technology, how we govern the technology. We need a perspective from private sector. We need a perspective from academia, civil society about citizen right, academia about their perspective about the technology, industry about best practice, and also we need to see from multilateral best practice in the world, standard, norm, and other things. So we know how to govern the technology. So about governance of technology or emerging technology, I think collaboration between diverse stakeholders is essential part for navigating the complexity of digital landscape. Yeah, because the topic of strengthening collaboration to shape internet future, the keyword to governs the emerging technology, I think multi-stakeholder and multilateral approach is become a critical part to formulating policy or regulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Aryo. And I'm very glad and happy to hear how the Indonesian government approaches governance issues, which is to use multilateral model and talk to different stakeholders so that it further strengthens the governance. So this is very positive. And my own experience with working with the Indonesian community is exactly as that. You know, when I first came to, like Sally was saying during the opening, my second day in ICANN, I came to Indonesia and worked with the community, and it was the ministry, Kominfo, with the different stakeholders, Pandi, APG, we have civil society stakeholders together, all working on making the Bali IGF work, and that was an excellent example. So I'm really positive about this, and I think that would really strengthen our governance overall. All right, let's move to, I'm going backwards, so let's move to Jeff. Jeff, a key word for opportunity.
Thank you. It's all my failing eyes can't actually pick this, but let me pick a word that I hope is up there, which is very simple, communication. Because as humans, our evolution into complex societies has been by communicating with each other. We live to communicate. And so when you think of what the internet is, this marriage of technology and communications, it's the communication aspect that is the vitally important part of this. You know, we take the way we communicate, language, spoken and then written and then recorded. And with technology, we've been able to transform information into knowledge and then share that knowledge in a way that's accessible. And so the opportunities, I think, lie in fostering that communication space. But there's one aspect here that I think deserves a lot of attention and care. It's not a private space. It's not an owned space, despite appearances to the contrary sometimes, when it seems like large content companies own the internet. They don't. It's a public communications platform. It's for all of us. And what the opportunities, I think, lie for APAC, and indeed for our world looking forward, is to preserve that very essential element that communications is not private, it's public. And we need to strike a sustainable balance between the very large, the very, very large, and the small, me, you, and every other human and every other person. And if we can make that balance sustainable, that all of us find a space where we can thrive, we can communicate, we can develop, that's the best thing the internet can do for us. Trying to preserve that public space is not easy. It hasn't been easy so far. It's going to be harder. The riches involved in this disruption from the previous rule of telephony and telephone companies into this new world of digital giants is difficult to control. The disruption is enormous. The challenges to the public space and public society is huge. But it's a challenge we must face, and we must work through it in order to, as I said, preserve the rights of all of us as individuals to have our own place in this communications environment. We're not guests in someone else's network. We are part of every such network. If we can sustain that, we'll be winning. You know, all of the other parts will evolve with us. In theory, hopefully AI will get better. In theory, hopefully, we'll have a better understanding of how to distribute knowledge, how to be able to create opportunities for everyone to develop in their chosen areas of skill and expertise, to preserve our cultures and to, if you will, develop them in a way that is harmonious with others. That's my dream. The internet's been the closest we've ever had to that. It's been a conscious effort, firstly, I suppose, in its very outset, that it was never a secret. It was always open. It was always accessible. Oddly enough, security is a nightmare because the original model of the internet was, oddly enough, a human model of trust, a human model of openness. It's sad that it's been turned against us recently And it would be good somehow if we could reinvent those fundamental human properties of communication and trust in an internet that, I suppose, resists various forms of abuse and disruption, but preserves the bits that are valuable. That won't be easy. It's not obvious, and I don't think I have any answers in that space off the top of my head. But unless we concentrate and work towards those goals, it will never happen. So I would actually say the opportunities are around preserving the public communication space and remembering that we are that public. It's not someone else's internet, it's our internet that's most important. And that will, I think, provide opportunities for APAC and indeed the world as a whole looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, we have claps in the audience, because Jeff, you couldn't hear, but you have claps in the audience. So I want you to know that. Okay, I'm mindful of time, so let's move to Sally quickly, and then we can open the floor again, please.
Thank you, and I'll be brief, but I would want to just build on a few points that my colleagues and panelists have made. And my focus would be around the words on the screen, the opportunities around digital inclusion, primarily. And why have I picked that? Well, many reasons. I think from a governance perspective, as I said earlier, you know, bringing the 30% of the world's unconnected online by 2030, so ambitious, the Sustainable Development Goals. So the framework, the governance framework that everybody that works in the internet space around the world, this is the bigger goal. We want everybody in the world to be able to access our internet. As Jeff said, it's for us, it's by us, it's for us. And if we can't get onto it in the first place, we're locked out. We're not part of that global conversation. And that means we're missing out. Personally, it means we're missing out on the ability to build businesses, to grow, to experiment. You gave great examples, Andrew, of exactly how to take advantage of AI to solve problems. Well, to do that, you have to be there in the first place. So inclusivity would be my focus. And at ICANN, I mentioned briefly in my opening comments, we will do our part, particularly here, by opening up and expanding the top-level domain space, the generic top-level domains. And it is absolutely aimed at people like your cucumber farmer. What a great story, I love that. I can visualize, such a great visual image. And because he doesn't need, with the greatest respect, Google. He can do this because of the work that organizations like Google and millions of others and technology companies and technologists around the world have contributed to put the answers in the hands of individuals. So ICANN's part in that is to give you space online that is yours, that you can own, that you can brand, to build businesses, to build communities, to enable yourselves to be successful entrepreneurs on a global stage. And as Andrew said, I believe, and I really believe, that this region has so many assets already, cultural assets, I would say aspirations, ambitions, an extraordinarily industrious and successful region, and growing the internet access all the time. Multilingualism, which was also on the screen, for us is the key partner for this, because we need to make sure that as people come online, these are not just people who use ASCII scripts, Latin scripts, and speak English. Most of the internet users of the world do not use English as their first language, the vast majority of them. And we've done well with multilingualism on the internet. We can do better, but those scripts is the next frontier, and that is very well taken care of by the efforts of our community here, and we will do everything we can to support you with that universal acceptance goal, so that everybody, wherever they live in the world, whatever language they speak and whatever script they use, can access opportunities equally. And in November, we will, as I said earlier, we will launch our applicant support program, and in order to help people like small entrepreneurs, that's absolutely targeted at those micro entrepreneurs. and to bring them into the space where it is our internet, it is your internet. And equipping people with the knowledge and the tools to do that is a critical part of my goals and objectives. As Jeff said, it's an open space. It's not a private space. It's for all of us. And that would be my hope and wish, that we can do that to the best of our ability.
Thank you, Sally. All right, so we did start late, but we are scheduled to finish this session at 12:15. If I have everyone's permission, we overrun by 5 minutes, so we hard stop at 12:20. Let's continue the interaction from just now. And also others, if you have questions or comments, feel free to raise your hand. I'm keeping track. Can I trouble one of the team, the AV team with the mic? Let's go to the gentleman in front. Mics in front, please. Yep. Thank you. Over there. Teach the gentleman in the blue shirt. Yeah.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to just share some ideas with you, and I want to go back to the first session, if you don't mind. First of all, I want to thank you all. Amazing presentations and a lot of provoking ideas. I really enjoyed this very much. My name is Muhammad Ibrahim. I'm from Somalia. I'm here for another reason, but I couldn't resist to come this because in another life I used to be part of this scene. So first couple of comments. And I will start with these opportunities. Yes, the opportunities are plenty. As I walk along the corridor, I can see so many business opportunities, and I wish all the young people good luck. There's so much to do. But on the bigger picture scale, questions. Let me start with the idea of, for example, multilingual internet or the fragmentation and all this. As I walked late last night through the airport, I was reflecting on this. And the first thing was point your mobile phone to this barcode and then get your visa. That assumes I have a mobile phone. That assumes I know how to use a mobile phone. That assumes a lot of things. I think you know where I'm going with this. So we talked about digital divide in different scale in different times. But that was, to me, the best example I can get of. So I said, look, if I didn't have my mobile phone, or if my mobile phone was out of battery, or if I don't speak the language, will I be stuck at the airport all night? So these are just some issues that we need to consider as we all enjoy the internet. By the way, this is not all about negative. It's just to share ideas with you. Then let's go to the bigger scale, the fragmentation or what have you. I remember way back when I was a lot young and I used to go to the ICANN conferences. Fragmentation was a new idea, and people were saying, why this is a problem? In fact, if you even go back much beyond that, when we started and we said, look, the internet is for all, we can all speak English, blah, blah, blah. And then we realized, well, maybe that's not a good idea. What about the Chinese, the Russians, the Somalis, what have you? So now again, we're complaining. We're saying, oh, why are we fragmenting? Well, I want to speak in my Arabic language or in Somali language. The Chinese might want to speak in the... So what's wrong with fragmentation? I will just leave there, but I guess it's more to say about this. But very quickly, I just want to mention a couple of other things. And I was talking to a few people today. It seems there are loopholes. The ideas are good, whether you go to the ITU or WIBO or all those other places. Everyone will tell you the internet is for all, it's the way forward, and I agree with you all. That is the way we have to go. But then, what are the loopholes? ITU will say, look, well, we only deal with governments, we only deal with ministers. Then you go to ISOC, they will say, oh, we only deal with the chapters. Then you go to ICANN, oh, we are multi-stakeholderism. So what I'm pointing out is there are gaps that perhaps if we can all work together, we can solve some of these problems. I've got a lot of other ideas, but I won't take all the time from others. In terms of opportunity, I will just mention one, perhaps Indonesia, we can think about sharing your knowledge with the African continent. That might be South-South collaboration. I will just leave it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate all the comments. There isn't any question there. So maybe we can move to anybody else? Yep, please.
Hi, my name is Alvin Kwan from CSC. We are a corporate registrar and brand protection provider. I have a question related to the keywords of business and also digital sovereignty that we talked about before. I was watching a video from our magazine, from ICANN actually, ICANN the interview. They talk about how, in the early days of the internet, he was helping to push through the concept and how they avoid the government to be too directly involved in the management of the internet. And one of the key things is that the internet moves too fast, and a bottom-up model would be able to resolve a lot of this issue more efficiently. So we know now that a lot of the problems that exist on the internet are not resolving very efficiently, and a lot of them are also related to content, because internet is a technical protocol to deliver communication, and communication require content. My question is, without changing the bylaw of ICANN, how do you see ICANN able to play a more active role in facilitating this kind of multi-stakeholder model to resolve problem of the internet in the internet governance issue beyond beyond the technical parts? Thank you.
I think this question is for Sally.
Thank you for your question. So, as you rightly say, and I would restate it, and I said it earlier, ICANN's mission does not extend over content. And I can't see that changing. ICANN's mission is the same as it was when it was founded just over 25 years ago. And its original vision, its original founder, John Postel, sadly not with us anymore. But as Jeff said earlier, how fortunate we are that so many of the people that founded it are still here to support that view and to be part of the future. What can we do differently, you said? Well, we can go faster. And one thing I've noticed enormously, and I welcome wholeheartedly in the ICANN community, is that we have got so much better at using our multi-stakeholder processes, by which we mean the policy-making process itself, the mechanics of how each one of those communities literally put their hands on that policy and create that advice that comes to the ICANN board to be voted on, and then the ICANN board, they will pass the resolution and they say, the ICANN CEO or her designee, please go and do this to implement policy. And in the time I've been at ICANN, I've seen that process speed up enormously. And that, I'm so grateful to our community for the way that they lean into that, because I believe that our community, whatever group they come from, understand the need to continue to build trust in the bottom-up model. It must be efficient and it must be effective. And it is not just about participation for participation's sake. It has to deliver outcomes, and outcomes that can be implemented effectively, transparently, and openly to preserve the structure of the technical infrastructure that we have today. So that would be my key area, is keep on doing more of that, because it's working.
Thank you, Sally. All right, I'm mindful of time with 3 minutes. Let's do one more question. Or comment. Question or comment. Everyone can't wait to go for lunch? All right. If that's the case, then I'm happy that we can close the session. And please join me to thank all my speakers, Sally, Pak Hario, Andrew, and Jeff, for joining us remotely. Please.
Thank you so much. Please give applause to our amazing moderator as well. Mr. Jerong, thank you for leading this session amazingly. And before we end up the opening plenary session, I would like to invite moderator and speakers. Could you please be up standing in front of the table and doing the photo session with the speakers who are joining us virtually as well? Yes. We will take a picture with all speakers and also moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not go anywhere, because I have important information about our next agenda after the lunch. All right, please, speakers, moderator, face the camera. All right, we have to make sure Jeff also capture on the camera. In the count of 1, 2, 3. Smile. Once again, change into the other pose. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much. Please give applause, ladies and gentlemen, for a very insightful session from our opening plenary session with the title Building Bridges, Strengthening Collaboration to Shape the Internet's Future. We have learned a lot about how to face another internet challenges nowadays, and we have to strengthen our collaboration because our next internet futures is our responsibility. All of you, ladies and gentlemen. And before we continue to our next agenda, it is the time to enjoy your lunch break, ladies and gentlemen. So please make your way to the exhibition gallery for enjoying the delightful lunch that we prepare to each and every one of you, ladies and gentlemen. And to find the lunch venue, you can go outside and then you can turn right and then you can follow the pathway and signage that we have prepared to each and every one of you. Our organizing committee will also help you to find the lunch venue, ladies and gentlemen. The next agenda will be the breakout session at this room. We will start at 1:30 p.m. So please enjoy the lunch and I'll see you at 1:30 p.m. for the breakout session. On behalf of the organizing committee, we wish you have a pleasant lunch. Thank you, everyone.